This is something that we really haven't seen before. And it's so scary.
Oh, fuck off, movie. You were on the verge of greatness, and you not only tripped at the finish line, you crapped your pants in the process. Smile had all the potential in the world to be something unique in the world of horror, but instead you decided to take the safe route and become average at best. So let's put a smile on our faces and dive into this shit. The movie opens up with Dr. Rose, who's sleeping at her desk. Apparently, she's been working all night in the psych ward, and it really shows how much she does care about her job. We get a pair of scenes to reinforce that very early on. Rose interacting with a patient and arguing with her boss, played by Cal Penn,
I've never had to suck a dick before. Me neither. I bet it sucks dick.
that even though a patient doesn't have health care, it's still not right to kick them out into the streets. Not bad. It shows her character, that she cares about her job, cares about her patients, and wants to be generally a good human being. Then Rose is about to leave when her phone rings. They just brought in a young girl named Laura who is having a severe breakdown, and Rose goes to her room to talk to her. Laura is very scared and flinches anytime Rose moves towards her, but eventually decides to sit down and have a talk about what's going on. Laura explains that something is following her. Not a person, but something that looks like a person. Rose immediately starts asking Laura questions about her family tree. Questions like, does anyone in your family have schizophrenia or something like that? And this made me pause a bit and wonder, is this just cold, uncaring dialogue or standard procedure in a psych ward? Like, wouldn't you want to talk her down first before just saying she's delusional?
Listen, we all know you're a scumbag and nobody cares about you.
Maybe try to be empathetic to what's going on in her situation. Maybe she is being followed by someone. Maybe she's being stalked by one or multiple people. Rose has no idea. Rose didn't read a chart. They just brought this girl kicking and screaming on a gurney. But I think that cold kind of response comes in later, so I don't really know if it's planned or not. Just keep in mind of that. Anywho, Laura then sees something behind Rose and falls to the ground screaming, knocking over a flower pot. Rose runs to a phone to call for help, and then this happens. Silence. Dead silence. Rose turns around and sees that Laura isn't on the floor anymore. She keeps turning and sees Laura standing there, smiling cheek to cheek. This is horror at its best. I hate jump scares. I hate loud noises designed to scare the audience. This I love. Laura keeps staring at Rose and then brings a broken piece of the flower pot to her face and cuts her throat slowly. This scene is incredible. Kathleen Stacy fucking kills it in the small amount of screen time that she has. Laura's body drops to the floor and security runs in. Fucking what? Seriously, what kind of fucking rent-a-cop bullshit is this? Laura is screaming bloody murder. There is even a scene where you see the ambulance dropping her off and she's screaming her head off and has to be restrained. This isn't someone you want to leave alone with Rose at all. Why wasn't security outside the door to begin with? Why didn't they just burst in the room at the first scream? Jesus, is this really how it's done over there? Moving the fuck on. Then the movie decides to give everyone a seizure by throwing the word smile on the screen repeatedly a couple times. Like, what the fuck is this? Is this like a carnival ride or something? Rose gives a statement to a pair of uncaring police officers and goes home. Rose drives away and doesn't stop at a stop sign. I don't know why they put this in. It wasn't like she blew through the stop sign and the jump scare happened, like she almost hit someone or someone almost hit her and the car horns beep and everything like that. People are cursing each other. She just drives through the stop sign and turns. I don't know, I found that kind of weird. Just bring that up. Now Rose does what any logical person would do in this situation. She dims the lights and walks around a pitch black house. Fuck you, writers. That is so dumb and cliche. Why the fuck are all the lights off? And worst of all, we get the opening the refrigerator door and expecting something to be on the other side cliche. For them just to do a jump scare a few moments later by her fiance that walks in, played by none other than the A-Train. Oh, also Rose and A-Train have a cat, which obviously dies later. Sorry, guys. They exchange a few pleasantries, and Rose doesn't exactly say what happened at work. She just says it's a really bad day. Rose and A-Train have dinner plans with Rose's sister and her husband, but the whole time we see Rose completely out of the conversation, focusing on the events of today. But then her sister goes on and on about missing yoga and shopping for her kid's party and stupid shit like that. Rose and her eventually get into an argument because they want to sell the family house, and then eventually the sister and husband make fun of the patience that Rose has, further showing that Rose gives a shit about her job, and she's good at it too. You know, it's actually kind of refreshing not to see a Mary Sue character in today's Hollywood. But again, the problem is they're using the cliche of the bitchy money-grabbing sister. You're better than this movie. The next day, Rose is met by one of the police officers from yesterday, Joel, who is apparently Rose's ex. Joel is too nice of a person to be dealing with this bullshit, and especially everything that happens later on. After the conversation, Rose mistakenly gets a patient restrained because he starts yelling at her, saying that she's gonna die next. And when security comes in to restrain him, the man was apparently sleeping the whole time, which I don't know if this was real or in her head. The movie doesn't really explain the supernatural aspects enough for me to fully get what's going on. And because of this, Cal Penn decides that Rose should take a week off because she just witnessed a murder and misdiagnosed a patient as violent. I'm sorry, Kumar, were you there? Were you in the room? Were you walking by? No, it was Rose and this guy. Rose diagnosed him as being violent, called for help, and they restrained him. Rose turned away and turned back, and the guy was in the bed. He could have easily just laid back down and say, wait a second, I was just sleeping this whole time. Like, you're telling me people don't lie in this world? Okay. So Rose goes back home, and again, she's sitting alone in a dark house. And then the alarm goes off in an extremely cheap jump scare. The security company obviously calls, asks Rose if anyone's in the house. Rose says no, and then the security guard says, are you sure you're alone? Are you sure you didn't let anything inside, Rose? Fucking chills. And this is what annoys me about the movie. They do so many things right, yet at the same time they do so many things wrong, which feels like a lack of confidence on the writing part. Imagine watching Schindler's List, but it's filled with fart jokes every now and then. It's still a great movie, but it certainly loses something because of this. And then Rose does a really slow turn, and the phone rings again, creating another jump scare. It's the actual security on the phone, the police arrive, make sure everything's good, A-Train shows up too, and the two discuss what's going on. Rose is clearly upset, but she's holding it together as best she can, but A-Train knows that something's up with her. She's stuttering a lot and stumbling all over her words. A-Train goes to bed, and Rose decides to stay up late again, by herself in a dark room, listening to the recording of herself talking to Laura. And then we get another jump scare. You get a jump scare. You get a jump scare. Everyone gets a jump scare. Fucking stop it. The next day, Rose decides to meet her therapist to see if she gets some kind of medication, but the therapist refuses and says we should meet a couple days more before we start discussing medicine. The next day, Rose goes to her sister's house for her nephew's birthday, and he opens up her present and is extremely disappointed. It's not a train set, but Rose's dead cat. Try returning that without a receipt. Boo! Rose has a freak out, starts screaming at the partygoers, and clutches her cat, and then falls through a table. I don't fucking know. How did the fucking cat die? Thankfully, we don't get to see what happens though. But this is like the demon or curse possesses Rose. I don't know. We don't really get an answer for things like that, and that's what annoys me. Because this movie tries to explain some stuff, but completely botches explanations for other stuff. We never get to know why this cat died and how. As Rose is recovering at home, she starts digging into Laura's police report. Laura apparently witnessed her professor killing himself with a smile on his face alone in a room with her. Rose goes to the widow's house and pretends to be a reporter, covering the story. The widow shows Rose the man's paintings he did before he died. Horrific paintings that make you wonder why nobody questioned this man's sanity sooner. Rose shows up at Joel's house to investigate the professor's death a little bit more with his resources. Oddly enough, the professor witnessed a suicide just days prior to his own, and that victim witnessed another suicide a couple days before that. So obviously it's a pattern here. Rose goes back home to do some more digging on this, and she finds A-Train, her therapist, waiting for her there. A-Train is very concerned about Rose's condition now, and does the only logical thing he could think of. Call her therapist for some help. Rose instantly turns the argument around and says that he doesn't care about her. He just cares that this is affecting his perfect little world. Fucking excuse me. Let's rewind this a second, bitch. A-Train was introduced. Rose lied to him. She said she had a bad day at work. At no point did she say, hey, my patient killed herself in front of me. Apparently, Rose has a history of this, putting up walls to protect herself, and now has the fucking balls to accuse A-Train of not being there when he's not even told the real story.
Bitch.
Rose goes to her sister's house to apologize and tell her what's really going on about this situation. Now, remember at the beginning of the movie when I said the dialogue might be a little bit too cold? I think that might be by design. It was meant to be cold because if someone is telling you that they are cursed or whatever, you're probably not going to believe them, right? You're going to think that they're just crazy or imagining stuff or just pretending or whatever. You're not going to think that this is real. And maybe that's the theme of the movie, to be more empathetic towards others, to be there for them more, especially when they're going through something crazy like this because you don't know what they're going through. The two sisters start to argue. Apparently, Rose watched the mother overdose, and the sister fled the house before that because she didn't want to deal with it anymore. The conversation gets heated, and they both walk away. Rose sits in her car trying to compose herself, and the sister walks by, and what a fucking shock, another jump scare.
You just don't get it, do you? You don't.
Rose leaves to go get a burger, and Joel gives her a call. Apparently, Joel has been digging around in this since she left. All the victims but one committed suicide in this suicide train. The man that's alive is in prison for murder. The two drive up to see the man, and he explains how to beat the curse. He says the only way to do it is to murder somebody in front of someone else. And it has to be horrific, because that's how the curse travels, through trauma. Rose explains that she can't possibly kill someone, and the man shrieks in horror, thinking that his plan is now ruined, and that he's about to be cursed again. Rose comes home and sees her therapist at the door, very concerned about her condition. The two sit down and start having a very pleasant chat. The phone rings, Rose answers it, and it's the therapist on the phone. The one moment where Rose realized that she is face to face with the very thing that was haunted her was fucking terrifying. This is horror at its absolute finest. I can't recall many scenes in my life that made me feel how I felt in that theater and how I feel recording this right now. The therapist smiles creepily, grabs Rose, and then disappears. It's not her time just yet. Rose shows up at the hospital and hides a giant knife in her sleeve. She walks into a patient's room and Cal Penn enters very confused. Rose starts stabbing the man in front of him over and over and over again. Cal Penn screams in terror and rips his face off and fuck, god damn it, it's another jump scare. Rose wakes up in her car and the real Cal Penn knocks on the window, creating yet another jump scare. He notices the knife, begs her to stay and talk with him. She drives off, and then for some fucking reason, there's another jump scare in the window. I fucking give up. Why? What? Was there a quota of jump scares you needed? Rose starts driving away and realizes that the only way to beat this curse is to be alone. That way the curse can't make her commit suicide because there's nobody there to watch it. I mean, it's kind of a good plan. Except the parameters aren't exactly clear about how long a possession actually lasts until the killing blow. But still, it's a pretty good plan. Rose drives to the vacant family house in the woods. It's boarded up and no one's been there for decades, it seems. We see the marks left on the walls of the children's heights growing up and stuff like that. And the stage is set. I really don't know what Rose was thinking at this point, though, because if she was going up there just to kill herself, she would have already done it, though. But it looked like that she was ready and up for something. It really wasn't explained, and I feel like they could have at least talked about it for a second. As night falls, the door to her mother's bedroom opens up. The mother overdosed as a child, and Rose didn't save her. Why? Because the mother was a terrible woman. Not the worst thing a child can do in that situation. I mean, I kind of understand it a bit. Then the curse makes the mother appear before Rose, and the two have a very long chat. Rose explains that this isn't real, and she can win this. The curse comes closer and knocks Rose over. As this was going on, I realized that I owed the writers an apology. They could have gone with a massive monster at the end, something demonic and forcibly scary, but choosing to make the final boss an emotional battle with her deceased mother is certainly something to be praised. And then a few moments later, the mother turned into a gigantic, demonic, scary thing.
Wow, big lady.
Rose beats her with a lamp, sets her on fire, and leaves the house. Okay, not fucking terrible. I kinda get the message, though. The message of overcoming these things, realizing that my past is not going to be a hindrance on my future, and I could defeat these things if I have the mental capacity to do so. I get it. I get what you're trying to do, movie. Rose shows up at Joel's house and apologizes to him for their past. She explains the mental walls, the pushing people back, and that he didn't deserve it. Joel explains that he's always going to be with her forever. And then he smiles, and the tone changes. And we are brought back to the fucking house with the monster. God fucking mother fucking lazy writers. Rose runs out of the house in pure horror, and who shows up? The actual Joel. He tracked her phone. Rose is horrified because the monster is about to win. It has a witness, and Rose knows it's all over. She runs into the house and locks the door. Joel desperately starts kicking the door down, but to no avail. Then the monster grabs Rose, opens her mouth, and makes his way inside of her. Did not expect that. The door gives way and Joel looks around for Rose. He sees her there with her back turned to him, holding a can of gasoline above her head. She drops the can, turns around, and smiles. She picks up a match, and the camera zooms in on Joel's eyes as she's engulfed in flames. And that's the movie. A message about trauma that didn't lead to a happy ending of getting over it and moving on. Nope, fucking generic CGI monster fight and everyone dies. Now let's take a look at my ending for this and the state of Hollywood as a whole. Specifically Disney and Marvel. The two companies have decided to go all in on women, making them the perfect characters. You have Rey Skywalker, the new Mulan, Captain Marvel, the greatest heroes of all time that are great because they simply are. And I bring that up in connection with this movie because I think Rose could have won this battle with the curse. Not because she was born better, but because this is her field of expertise. She has the tools around her. She knows what to tell patients. She knows how to treat these things. This is not a foreign entity to her. She knows how to beat these things. I almost wanted an ending like A Beautiful Mind, where Russell Crowe's character, a brilliant man, sees people that aren't there. His best friend slash roommate wasn't there, his niece wasn't there, his boss wasn't there, but he saw them around for decades and didn't even know they weren't real. So how did Crowe's character combat this? Did he use drugs, medicine, shock therapy? No. He decided to take this from a logical standpoint. I'm just not going to talk to them. And I'm going to ignore the shit out of them for the rest of my life, and that's it. They're not going to win, they're not going to control me, and that's it. And that's what Crowe's character does. It shows him years and years later walking through the halls of the school, and he'll see his best friend just, standing in the corner, his boss hanging out in the tree, the little girl playing with Jax in front of him, and he just fucking ignores them. And that's the kind of ending I wanted in this movie, where the curse is just stuck in Rose. It knows it can't beat her. It knows it can't escape to someone else. I would even be cool if the final scene of this movie was Rose putting her head down on her pillow, turning over, and seeing some demonic face looking back at her. And she just smiles and says, "Good night," and we cut to black. Wouldn't that have been a little bit more satisfying? Seeing Rose mentally defeat her demons and this curse at the same time? Getting over her past, realizing that I'm not my trauma, I can do this, I can win? Wouldn't that be a positive message? When was the last time Hollywood has really had a positive message in a movie? Everything's just fucking bleak and dumb now. Fucking generic cardboard cutouts of previous things or remakes. This would have been different. This would have been fun. This would have been unique. But what did they do? Fucking jump scares, a couple of great iconic scenes, and that's it. That's the end of the movie. Fucking bleakness. Do we want to see bleakness? I understand it's a horror movie, but come on. Give me something to work with here. Smile was okay at best. I mean, those smiling scenes are definitely in my top 10 of horror scenes of all time for me. I'm telling you, those might be worth watching the entire movie or just checking them out on YouTube. But the rest of it, it was just so not lazy, just not great. It was too generic. It was too boring. It was too stereotypical. My God, just think about Joel in this situation. Think about how shitty that's going to be now. He just watched his ex-girlfriend set herself the fuck on fire. He knows everything that's going on, and he knows I'm going to be dead in 7 days. I'm going to kill myself in front of someone else. How the fuck do you reconcile with that? That's more interesting to me. What the fuck does Joel do after this? This guy is the worst thing that Joel did this entire movie was checking in on Rose, was answering the door when she showed up, was deciding, hey, I'm going to do a little research and see if I can help her out. The second he interacted with her, he started his own death clock. That was it. And there was nothing you could do to stop it. He went there to save her life because he cared, because he's a good guy, and how is he rewarded for it? He's gonna fucking shoot himself in 7 days, and we all know that. And that is the movie in a nutshell. Fucking Hope dies. Do I say it dies with a smile on your face? I don't fucking know. I don't know what they were thinking with this movie. My God, they had so many great things going with it. They had so many great elements of it. Oh, I'm just annoyed because everything this movie could have been, could have made it iconic, could have made it unique. But in the end, we got fucking cardboard cutout, bleakness, and hopelessness. Let me know what you guys think about this.